blah, 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 blah. Hi, everybody. I'm slightly more professional than I was last week because I got people's names.
Oh, we have
Oh,
names.
shit.
You know, I was
You can
gonna
see the old
sass you
names
about
still kind of half hidden. But the
Yeah,
new
well,
ones are much more noticeable.
It's slightly more professional.
And I was gonna sass you about that, but I totally forgot too. And then now it's like I'm surprised.
This is the level of professional I accept only.
Hi, welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It's March. It's March 13th. Yes, that's the date. We're episode something rather. I don't remember. I should remember.
mean, it says 176, but
There you
I
go.
don't know if that's true or not.
I
Who
think
knows?
it probably is.
It may or may not be accurate.
It's mostly accurate. Anyway, if you're joining us today, you get to enjoy our amazing docket of topics that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some news, Folk of the Feywild for D&D. We'll probably hit up a little bit of Candlekeep Mysteries. We're going to talk about Pathfinder has a new one-shot series that they're doing, which is kind of interesting. And I did want to talk about a new, what's the best way of saying it? Physical model / item that's related to D&D. WizKids is putting out the Hand and Eye of Vecna.
I think
Is
that's
it like a mini or?
I don't
It's
think
not
it's
a mini because it's like an actual hand
replica.
replica.
Oh,
So you can
so
have
like
a severed
a collector item.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can have like a
you can have
severed hand and eye.
Of a Vecna if you really want to. I'm not gonna lie, that actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah, just like
I mean, if it was given to me, I wouldn't throw it away.
Yeah.
you just keep it on your
I'll just put it on my
you need
shelf.
you need a coffee table specifically to put it down at the center of it.
I'll put it right on my nightstand.
Yeah. The eye always watches you.
Then I do want to get into like a little bit of like a deeper discussion topic if we have some time here. I want to talk about some game editions and comparing them because I enjoyed. I don't check them as much, but I did enjoy a comment that I got on my Legacies of Canes of V5, and so that like brings me into we can talk about like 4 games that we all have a little bit of experience with and how they compare their editions. I was thinking D&D, Pathfinder, Shadowrun, and Vampire the Masquerade.
I've also been playing a 3rd edition reskin.
Oh, nice.
That's interesting to go back in time.
Yeah.
I don't think I enjoy it as much as you might think.
Like, if you're going straight 3rd edition, that's a hard thing to go back to.
Ooh, well, we'll get to that later.
Yeah. But let's start with the Unearthed Arcana, because that's the big thing that came out for D&D this week, Folk of the Feywild. And right off the bat, I'm going to continue with my opinion. I kind of hate how they're doing races in a way right now. I hate their ability score thing. I think it's too generic, and I think they could do it a lot better if they wanted to make it, in quotation, a little more generic.
I had an opinion like about this when they sort of started announcing this stuff. Of give like the plus, like keep the +2 from the race standard, but tie the +1 to like a background or something, so backgrounds actually matter.
That would be interesting. Yeah,
because backgrounds don't matter. The abilities are useless most of the time.
That's true. The features.
Yeah,
I don't think I've
of
used
them
it
are
a
useless.
single time in any of the games I've played.
I used in my current game, I've used my Acolyte feature exactly 1 time at the start and never again.
Yeah, I think that's partly a DM fault to try and weave them into the story, but they are such a minor thing that they tend to be overlooked a lot, I think.
Yep.
I feel like for them, for like backgrounds, weaving them into the story is a combination between the player and the DM. It's like the DM has to have the opportunity, but the player has to remember and actually use their thing correctly. Like for the Acolyte one where you can stay at a temple or something, great! There has to be a temple there, but then you have to be like, I could stay there and maybe have it be of use. Because like if you're staying there on your own, what about the rest of your team? Can you bring the rest of your people with you?
Most cities have a temple. I don't remember what my background is most of the time.
I always remember what my background is, but I mostly use background as an RP tilt. Like in the Wednesday game, not the Pathfinder Wednesday game, the 5e Wednesday game, I'm a fighter, but I'm the Eldritch Knight, and I have Sage background.
Ooh.
And the reason for the Sage background is they had a magical mother, but they didn't show any signs of magical abilities at a young age, so they more were interested in like the study of it. And then some stuff happened, and now they're not in that area anymore, and so their like inquisitive or researchy kind of nature applied to something new to try and figure out like a puzzle. And that's pretty much all it's been used for, is more of an RP flavor.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of like my idea of it's not entirely my idea. I've seen other people have this tie the +1 to your background.
And like the 2 bonus, I could see it being somewhere that make things a little bit more interesting. Like a fairy maybe having like dexterity or charisma or something like that. Or even if you don't want to have it be a specific score, give a suggestion of a couple of scores which would be appropriate to that race. You're like,
I will say, having like the +2 not tied to anything, I could play the buff fairy from Fairly Odd Parents. So.
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing.
Strength fairy.
Yeah, no, that's cool. See, that's a cool concept, but that'd be like you talk to your DM, be like, "Hey, I don't want a + to Dex. Here's my idea. Can I have it to 2?" And then they're just like, "Sure."
My strength.
Yeah. The buff fairy. I do like that. But like that's kind of a silly thing. It's a specific build, it's not normal. You talk with your DM about it. Like I would like just like suggestions, you know, like for like, you know, let's say like a dwarf. If you want suggestions for a +2, you could be like strength, constitution, and maybe one of the mentals. Like here's 3 suggestions of ones that are appropriate. Wisdom. These are the normal ones that you would choose from. With your GM approval, you could go for something else, but it would make you unusual for your race. But these are the ones that your race are very good at. Like, when they got rid of minuses, I felt like it also weakened some of this a lot. Like, you know, it already made it more generic. I liked the minuses that they've had, and they have them in a lot of other things. Pathfinder 2nd edition has them. You know, I think 4th edition had them. Even up till then, and all of those, they worked fine, you know?
I'm going to be the min-maxer power gamer here and say that sometimes I really hate that -2.
I understand that. No, I understand that.
Like, what they're trying to do is go off the whole, you can play anything you want.
Yeah.
Which you could still technically really do anyways.
Yeah.
But it was just a little more difficult, you had to work for it.
Yeah.
Something that I mentioned before we started is... how I've been doing it with my own setting is I have for one of the particular races, the +1 is a free floating. You can put it anywhere you want as long as it's not to, you know, your +2 bonus. And then you have a sub race where that is where like your +2 is. It's like, are you more like nature focused? Well, that'd be like a wisdom or something. Are you more physical? You know, maybe it's a strength or dex or something. Or maybe, you know, you're more charismatic, or, you know, a very flamboyant race or something, and that'd be like your charisma. I get that this is only one option, but like there's a lot of different fairies, you know. There's like fairies and grigs and sprites and
like some sub races for fairy could be, and we might get them. It's just not listed here right now.
Yeah, I think that's another way of doing it. It's more work, but then you can have a bit more.
I feel like
flavor.
They might not do sub races nowadays because of the genericing.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how they're gonna handle this stuff. It's like there's part of me that I don't mind it, but I think that they're going about it a way that's kind of wrong, and they could do it a lot better.
Yeah.
So we should probably talk about what they're presenting here. They have 4 races: Fairy, Hobgoblin of the Feywild, Owlfolk, and Rabbitfolk. The Hobgoblin of the Feywild, I don't know if you necessarily need it. It's like a Hobgoblin, but it's also
like
the
Feywild. It's a little bit of a buff to the Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
Which is fine if they get a buff, because I think they were one of the
they're a little they're a little underwhelming compared to the monster version.
Which I gotta
Or
say,
compared to Goblin and what's the
Yeah,
other
I don't
one?
know why you would play Hobgoblin over a Goblin.
that's one of those things. Is I have to say, like, Hobgoblin was a really cool race to play in Pathfinder, and I don't know why in 5th edition they messed them up.
Because they gave it a bad ability. They could have given it something better.
Well, like,
It's really funny too because like a couple weeks ago, I literally watched a video talking about the goblinoid races and like how you can make them better in your game. And basically, they were just like, "Hobgoblins are dumb. Just do whatever the hell you want with them." And like, here are some suggestions. And I thought that was pretty funny that this came out and like, "Oh, Hobgoblin." It's like, wait a minute, weren't they talking about that in that show?
yeah. So let's start with one at a time. Fairies. You got fly speed. You get like some fairy magic, and then you can squeeze through passages up to an inch wide.
That's
You are also small.
quite silly.
But small is like halfling sized, and I'm like thinking
Yeah.
about that, and I'm like, you're 2 feet
This is
tall.
like- Yeah, that you should be tiny. You know, it should be, again, going back to my sub race thing, it should be you are tiny or small. And then if you're small, you get like a bonus to something else other than like dex or something.
Mm-hmm. And if
I
you're
will
tiny,
say-
you can squeeze.
Yeah.
I will say, I do like that this does give me a table I can roll curse things on.
Oh boy.
Yeah, little fake characteristics. You smell like fresh brownie.
Yeah.
That's just. I mean, I just noticed that one. I
Yeah,
was like looking at the first
I
couple.
Oh.
always love these little tables.
Can I have number 6 for real life? Your hands never look dirty. You know how many times I had to clean my nails?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Oh man. See, I like the tables they do like that. That's funny little characteristic things. That's good. I mean, there's some good stuff here. I think like the squeezing thing is ridiculous.
It's
I
a
don't
bit
Especially if
more,
you're
it's,
small.
Yeah.
it's silly.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know like and I don't know how flight works in 5th edition. I know in Pathfinder they tend to discourage flight because it can.
It
break
just
things.
works.
The
in
way
fight.
I do flight is, I'm pretty sure not the way you're supposed to do it, is you have to basically, like, if you want to go up and like if you want to go vertical and horizontal, you have to do some diagonal shit and math it out that way. That's how I tend to do it. And also, if you're flying and you lose your flying and you start falling, you're just gonna fall. You're gonna go splat. Does that make sense to me?
If your
I don't
movement
know if
becomes
that's
zero.
how you're supposed to do it or not.
I mean, if your movement becomes 0, you would no longer have a
Would.
fly speed technically, so you would start falling. So
Yep.
if that would happen, that would still totally within the
Right.
rules.
I don't know if there's like full rules for flying. in
Uh,
5e. I've never really looked.
I don't know. I would assume. I'd be playing Pathfinder. I would just use the Pathfinder rules. If you go up 60 feet, you double moved. If you only had a 30-foot of movement, right?
And I think like Pathfinder does it well. Like if you can fall for a certain distance, you can try to catch yourself and things like that if you have time, etc., etc. Like this one, the other thing about it is it's magical flight. They say. Does that mean it can be dispelled or anti-magicked and then you just plummet?
I think it's because you don't have to have wings technically. So
Yeah.
they're doing the catch-all. Like you don't have to have wings for flight speed.
I'm not too sure if you
That's
could
how I
dispel
interpret
it.
Still, I can see having a fairy character, and in like 50% of the situations where you're at, you will be virtually untouchable and murder everything.
Yeah.
You fly up
Yeah,
and
like-
have ranged attacks or spells or something, and hey, guess what? There are plenty of enemies that don't have the reach, don't have ranged attacks.
Yeah, but that's on the DM at that point to balance
Yeah,
around
like,
the players having
I'm-
flight.
Currently playing a character that can gain a flight speed and bamf out some dope wings. And to counter that, more ranged enemies started appearing.
Or caves.
Yeah, or caves, or things with roofs, so I can't fly too high.
And I mean, that's fine. Again, like, that comes down to it's more DM work. And
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
always agree with the way they do things. Like, I like how Pathfinder does it, that they restrict it, that it makes it that at the earliest, your beginning flight is like a wizard with 5th level, and they're only doing it for like maybe a combat. To be honest, like for like permanent fly speeds, it's not like until 9th level where you've got a lot of
9
options.
and 10.
Because those early levels, it's a lot harder to build in those options to deal with it. And I think it's technically the same in 5th edition, so it's like they're front loading a lot of issues for DMs.
I will say, there is slowly becoming more things in 5th edition that can fly. One of the soonest you can fly that I've at least seen, aside from the flying bird races you can play, is 6th level Twilight Cleric. If you are in complete darkness, you can fly.
Whoa! I didn't see that ability. I'm just going to look that up.
Grab
man.
my book.
Because I think it's either complete darkness or dim light and darkness, but you get a fly speed.
I might be being one of those things. So
you just find cleric in this book.
Yep. There's also a lot of creatures that can fly.
Yeah.
And a lot of creatures, I mean, now that I've started DMing more, a lot of creatures have ranged attacks.
Yeah.
Like they can have a javelin, or they have a longbow and like a dagger or something, or maybe a short bow and a dagger. Just I guess think of like small races and stuff. So, I mean, it's the same thing as like when you get to higher level play, when the players get the spell fly. It's just you have to take it into earlier consideration.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not 100% against it.
So 6th level Twilight Domain, Steps of Night. You can draw on the mystical power of the night to raise into the air. As a bonus action, you are in dim light or darkness, you can magically give yourself a flying speed equal to your walking speed for 1 minute. So there is at least a limit on it. But you can just do that. So they are adding more flying things for players.
And there's also the Sorcerer, a Draconic bloodline, and I think Divine Soul gets it.
I do not know because I've never played a Sorcerer.
I also wanted to say there are a few Pathfinder races that can fly at early levels. They didn't get rid of
very limited ones,
but they're very limited. I feel like 5th edition's doing it a lot more with various types of bird people, the fairies and stuff.
There's 2 officially now, and that is an optional rule, and Aarakocra are, from what I've seen, almost universally banned in most games.
Yeah, unless it's a higher level starting, no.
Yeah, I have not seen a single game that had Aarakocra allowed. But then again, I also don't consume a lot of outside D&D media.
I think at least there's one on High Rollers. That's the only one I really know of. But he started with 1 wing, so couldn't fly.
Ouch.
So fairies, interesting. We have the
They're...
hobgoblins.
Yep.
Go ahead,
fairies are interesting. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah. Hobgoblins. We talked about that they're just better than your normal hobgoblin form. They got some bonuses to save, and they got a thing for help actions. And
they also get elf power.
Yeah, when you miss with an attack roll or fail on a village check or saving throw, you can draw upon the bonds of reciprocity? Reciprocity?
Sure.
To gain a bonus to the roll equal to the number of allies you see within 30 feet. I know, that's a weird thing. I guess they're supposed to be hospitable and really nice and give things to people, unlike their cousins on not the Feywild who are mean.
Yeah. Or alternatively, what is going to happen is people will just stop using normal hobgoblin and be like, use this.
But hobgoblins are kind of a really they're like samurai basically, just put it bluntly.
Yeah.
So it'd be you're saving face in combat. It's just reflavored. And it also gives a limit. I'm sorry. I am all for having abilities that have a limitation on them.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of the UA things are you can just do this at will. I'm no, that's too strong. It has to have some kind of limitation. Otherwise, it's just broken. It's you can just spider climb whenever you want. It's fine.
And this is limited to because it is a bonus equivalent to the number of allies within 30 feet. If you're not close to people, you're not getting much of a bonus.
And also, your proficiency bonus is what it's tied to.
Yeah, that's so. You start with twice you can do it per day and get up to what, like 5 at most. So that's
Yeah, I
not
think-
bad.
Yeah,
I think
Like at
Hobgoblin
level
might be like the most
17 or
balanced
20.
one here.
The Alfolk, you think, is the most balanced?
The Hobgoblin.
Oh, the Hobgoblin. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. But then we do have the 2 animal ones, which can be
The-
apparently either medium or small.
Furry races.
Yeah, the
Oh
furry
hell
races.
yeah!
The Alfolk, which just get dark vision 90 feet. That's an interesting
I
one.
think they're cool, but unless I'm starting at like level 5, player ain't getting this.
Hmm.
Because you get flying.
You get
You
flying.
get flying on both, or
You
just
get
one?
nimble flight.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, nimble flight.
Yeah. They have detect magic as they do like a freaking
Like-
warlock.
Like it would be a cool. Like I can think of many cool NPCs to make this. I'd be very iffy on letting a player use it.
I can see that. Like, it's like, because of the nature of detect magic, because it either has to be like you're using a spell slot or you're gonna have to ritual it, and ritual is like 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10
But
minutes to cast your
I've
thing.
already felt how annoying it is to have someone with magic sight. With Joe on Thursday, constantly using magic sight, I'm like, okay, yeah, great, you're magic sighting, excellent.
My special eyes. I see all magic things.
Mm-hmm.
What do your elven magic eyes
I
see?
mean,
What do your owl eyes
What are
see?
your
It's like I don't
eyes
mind
see?
saying something about it, but it's also like I have to keep detect magic in brain constantly, and it's like an extra thing that I just didn't want to keep in brain constantly.
Depends on how magical your world is, though. Like a lot of times, it's just like, yeah, there's no magic here. Eventually, it'll be only used in important things.
It's like it's a very magical world.
Yeah.
And it's a world for
Well-
Magic the Gathering.
Well, then it's like you see magic everywhere. What are you trying to discover? Roll to narrow your search down.
I
'Cause
probably
otherwise
should do
you just
stuff
get
like that. Yeah.
Magic overload. Everything is magic.
Your eyes start to burn from it.
Yeah.
If you roll a 1, take psychic damage.
Yeah, I mean they also get like stealth as a proficiency just as an extra, and they're like, that's
Yeah, but I mean, elf gets perception.
Yeah, I mean, I
so-
think that's fine.
And then you can yell at them, "What's your elf eyes see?"
Yeah.
You've double memed.
We've done it.
Oh my god, I missed how that. What was that? Was called? I was looking at Rabbit Folk, and it's hair trigger.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
hair trigger is too
Oh.
much.
It's also the worst pun I've seen in all day.
I mean, I accept the pun. That doesn't mean I like it.
Add your proficiency bonus to initiative saves. Again, you could be small or medium. Why is there a difference? I mean,
Because you could
Why wouldn't
be.
you just-
Hang on. Medium is Final Fantasy ass sexy rabbit ladies. Small is tiny furry people from, I don't know, like a Ghibli movie or something.
You're Judy Hopps if you're small.
Yeah, there you go. Judy Hopps from Zootopia.
Rabbit Folk City Watch. I got my next
Hell
character.
yeah. That's why, because
so
furry.
small is Judy Hopps and large is like anime rabbit girl.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, it's what was the one girl from Roger Rabbit? Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh God. I
Yeah,
don't remember.
just give her ears. Boom.
Yeah, there
Rabbit
you go.
folk.
Yeah, just give her ears, Rabbit Folk.
Yep.
Proficiency in perception. Fail a dexterity saving throw. Can use a reaction to add a d4 to it. That's kind of cool. And then they can hop. I mean, I don't know what I feel like about this one. It's an
Just
interesting.
this hair trigger is the only one I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
That's gonna get like if you're going in a very long campaign, that's gonna get a bit much.
Especially if you dip it with another class, it gets additional
Yep.
initiative bonuses. You
Rogue-
will always go first.
Rogue Scout Rabbit Folk.
Yes,
You
yes,
will
and then
go
get a
first.
longbow, and then get the sniper feats.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
You just murder everyone forever.
Yes. Yup. Or just rogue assassin, because if you go first, you murder things. You know, you're
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, that too. Assassin rabbit folk. You want to hear my dark and furry backstory?
I really like that you called it dark and furry. I really do.
My question is, when are they gonna add an actual snake player race? not the
I mean,
pure blood shit.
I made Snake Race.
Good.
I mean,
It's pretty good.
like if we were talking with Pathfinder, they do have like not only can they play pure bloods, I think you can play like half bloods or something.
Yeah.
which are
Yeah,
more
there's a
snaky.
couple of them.
Yeah.
Because there's like lizard folk
you're
and then, like
gonna-
actual like Naga kind of things.
If you're gonna start adding more furry stuff, just go full.
Yeah.
Just go full furry.
Always go full furry.
Then you can have your oops all furry party.
Hell yeah. Anyway, Rabbit Folk is probably overpowered.
Yeah,
in
it's
a couple
still
different
that's like the
ways.
only one I'm like, I don't know about that one.
I think
I-
I think the hair trigger is what breaks.
Yeah, if it didn't have that, it's fine.
But it also has a bunch of other things. Like you get lucky kind of from Halfling,
I mean,
and then you get a hoppy hop thing, which is you just get a free movement, which is
Well,
you know,
I've had a player who had a jump ability. They played a frog, and it didn't really do anything to help them.
yeah, but
So jump,
if you
the
have a
kind
really
of jump
creative,
is, yeah, jumping like that it's very situational. So I can give that a little bit like a pass.
even the
Yeah.
lucky thing, I can kind of give a pass a little bit because it's specifically dex saves, and it's really if you fail it, you can roll a d. Like if someone's like you're gonna
It's just-
fail it, you roll a d4.
Yeah. It's like you have a guidance, but just for your dex saves.
Yeah,
is guidance D4?
I think guidance is D4.
yeah. And isn't
So you have a permanent guidance on dexterity saving
Yeah,
throws.
specifically for a dex.
and again, like the thing is, it does use your reaction too, which
Yeah.
is an important
Yeah,
thing, which can make a difference. I mean, like,
it super depends on your class, though.
but like, I would say, definitely, that and hair trigger together is a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I would allow a rabbit folk, I would just remove hair trigger,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the rest is fine.
So I think there is some issues in all of this. Every time I see that fucking Fey passage, 1 inch wide squeals.
It would be
So-
fine
It's so silly.
if they were tiny sized. It would be fine.
Yes, smaller. Like you have to look in like the books to see like what small is. They have tiny. They have small in their stats. Just make a fucking.
And there's also
tiny
diminutive. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
yeah, there
did
is.
remove some size categories in 5th edition. I don't know why, but whatever.
No, they still exist. It's
No.
just having access to them is limited.
It's like oops all gargantuan.
Oh, gargantuan.
Because nothing is above gargantuan anymore. They got rid of colossal, so it's just gargantuan plus.
That sounds like lazy right there.
Yes. Yes, I play 5th edition for laziness in a lot of S.
It is. It's a bit too simplified in a lot of places.
We
Mhm.
saved 2 lines of text by not
Exactly.
adding this.
We saved. We took those lines out so we could add some flavor text no one's ever gonna read.
Oh yeah. All right, what else is on the thing? We done with this?
We're done with this.
All right,
God.
let's move on.
Let's move on. You know what? Because we're talking D&D, let's talk about the thing before we talk about the Pathfinder. Let's talk about the hand and eye of Vecna.
Oh, we're changing things up again.
Oh,
switching them. I'm
that's
switching.
not the order of the docket.
I
Oh,
know.
man.
I'm a
No, the
monster.
professionalism is gone.
Rip.
I'm a monster.
I gotta look at this.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the hand of that.
No, that's the Unearthed Arcana that I clicked on.
That's the wrong link.
That is something
Uh-huh.
different.
It does just look. It does look really cool.
There's something for you.
Let's wait for me.
It was in the mail.
Okay.
Well, that's a hand and
Never
eye.
mind.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
It's not weird at all.
So it's a hand and an eye and a wooden display platform, a support piece, a display satin cloth, and a glass dome. So I'm guessing
Well-
like yeah. So it's like
I mean,
you drape the satin over it and have like the hand on there like and it can hold the eye, but you could have it separate, I guess.
you get what it says on the tin. That's the eye and hand of Vecna.
It's $130.
Yup.
Because
So that's a price.
it's a licensed product.
It's also like I guess it is like an actual like hand sized thing.
Yeah, I mean, if it's
It is
full
also
size,
it is also full sized.
yeah, that's kind of to be expected, honestly. realistically, though, for it being air quotes Dungeons and Dragons and being a full scale, that's actually probably not that bad of a price, to be honest.
Probably not. Like,
I
I don't
mean-
know if I'd buy it.
I
but,
really
I mean-
like if I had the
If
money,
someone,
maybe.
if someone would send it to me for my birthday, I couldn't say no. but-
I was gonna
Yeah?
say like when WizKids did the giant like dragon head that you could put on a wall that was like a large dragon head. If I had the money, I totally would have bought that shit, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like anytime I see something cool like that for a game or something I like, I'm like, if I had the money, but I just don't.
I think if you are an undead lover person, I think this is probably more in your alley. I don't know if anybody of us, or words, I don't know if any of us are super into undead.
Not like the lich part of undead. That's not the one I care about really.
Yeah.
I care more about like the more monstrosities and vampire stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, it's still neat.
Yeah,
It is
if you
very
like
neat.
Vecna, that's a product for you.
If you like Vecna, this is a product for you.
Then sign your name here.
Yeah.
Don't
Well,
bother
Oh
reading.
boy, do I have the perfect product for you.
Oh man, I looked it up, and they have. I just wanted to look it up because I was thinking about that dragon head. They don't have just red dragon. They have Mind Flare, Beholder, and Black Dragon, and Red Dragon. So you can have a big,
Oh,
like
the mind. God, fucking. Oh, I love mind flayers.
you can have a giant like creepy tentacle head dude
Hell
on your
yeah.
wall that's been mounted. You slayed that
Nice.
Mind Flare.
I love mind
That's
flayers.
my head now.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. I don't know what else to say about this one other than like if this is a product for you, definitely it's the Eye
It's
of Hand
neat.
Vecna. It's neat.
Yeah.
Some merch you can buy.
But let's talk about something that I'm actually surprised is in quotations a new product for Pathfinder. They're doing one shots, and I thought about it, and I the more I thought about it, their small pre-made adventures that they have were technically not designed to be one shots. Most of them could probably be ran in a single session, but it might be a fairly long session. Like, I have a number of those small adventures that Pathfinder or Paizo has provided. I don't think I could run any of them one session. These are specifically designed to be 3 or 4 hour sessions with pre-made characters that you can get for free.
I kind of figured they would have had like these already.
They apparently
But
didn't.
Guess not.
No.
Really
Well, that's-
strange, but I mean, good that they exist now.
Well, the closest
Yeah.
they had is that their version of Adventure League, which is the Pathfinder Society, has adventures which could theoretically be run over a session, but most of them are kind of adaptable and are usually given like, this is levels 5 to 7, you know, and it's specifically made for Pathfinder Society. So you're supposedly going to be members of the society in it, and it kind of tapers the storyline, you know, right away. Not that you couldn't probably adapt them, but they're not built in such a way for that. And they could, I guess it depends again, like they're not made for, I think, our time. It depends on how long it takes for people.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, more content's always a good thing in my opinion.
And, you know,
And these are good for like a one shot's really good to teach someone how to play a system.
Yes.
So like it would, if you want to ease someone into like Pathfinder, this would be like the best way to do it instead of dropping them in like, I don't know, I don't know
Like
what the TUI. I don't know what the TUI
Prison
adventures
of
are.
Undead
Yeah,
or
Prison of
something?
Spooky Ghosts. Or
Yeah. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that to new players.
make sure. Yeah, don't do that. But yeah, I mean, this is good. I don't really see a downside to it.
It's really interesting because, like, I'm just looking at the pre-made characters now. They have multiple pages. Like, they give like a backstory for these characters for playing them. They give the sheets. They give like the art. Like, you've got like the Tengu, the halfling, a elf, and
I mean, that's
a
an elf.
Human paladin. Good old
I like-
human paladin.
That's a
I like
classic
how-
combo.
I like how the halfling is the same head height as everybody else. So I just imagine she's standing on like a crate
Yeah,
or something.
God, like a shirt. Yeah,
You can't see the crate
she's on
because
she
Yeah.
carries a stepladder with her.
Yeah, just in case. Sometimes you just need a stepladder, and you just don't want to do it. No, like
I'm gonna make that a thing in my games. Is a step ladder is an item you can buy.
no, I do like that. One of those things for like one shot characters for them has always been one of those things about it because like people have to put together characters and you don't know if you're going to play them again. While one shots where you could still do that, or if someone doesn't want to, they could just use one of these characters.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work out of your hands. Cause
Yeah.
And,
it's
like,
not super easy to make a Pathfinder character.
No. And like pre-made characters aren't necessarily everything. Like they give a backstory and like some basics, but you can play it how you want. Like I think the good example would be Lightning when off-stream Joe Mads. We did the Star Trek kind of short adventure.
Oh yeah,
were
we had
all pre-made.
pre-mades.
Yeah, but we kind of evolved those characters and made them our own, as through the adventure. 3 or 4 hours is not a lot of time to do that, but you can still do your version of a character,
Or you could just be like, I want to change them from this race to that race, which is a really simple conversion.
Not as easy in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, unfortunately.
Oh, that's right, second edition. Slightly
I
different.
still have not done second edition, unfortunately. Not had the chance yet.
Like getting stuff like these one-shots an excuse to maybe try at some
Yeah,
point in time.
yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I want to play this bird sailor. It looks great.
I might be a tiny cleric halfling girl or something.
The bird, the
I
sailor
like
Tengu.
the sailor bird a lot.
He's like a swashbuckler bird too. It's so great.
Yeah, it's good.
No, I think like I like that they're doing this again. Like I'll agree, it's a little weird that they're doing it now. Finally,
I'm shocked that these didn't exist already.
Yeah, I thought I was. It just took me some time to think about it, and then like to look back at a few old adventures, and I'm like, no, none of these are really technical one shots.
This would have made me stealing Pathfinder things so much easier.
I have a theory. Is because this is for second edition, and second edition is relatively new considering like how long fifth edition has been out. Did one shots really exist for like 4E and third edition? I don't know if they did for
that's
third
a
edition.
good question.
No. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to be honest about myself, I don't think like actual one shots exist for fifth edition technically too, unless you're.
There's a Ghost of Saltmarsh has a bunch of like one shots in them.
Okay,
but they're
so
kind
some
of bad.
The anthology books, or like some of those things that are like the silly things you can get where you're playing like Oops All Goblins or stuff.
Yeah, like
There's homemade content that's designed for one shots.
Strahd technically has a one shot attached to it, but no one plays it because it's bad.
Well, and I can say like, if you're talking about homebrewed stuff, even back in third edition, there was homebrewed one shots. You could find them online. They were not as high a quality as you can find them now, but
Yeah.
it used to be like Word files. I remember finding those online and being like, here's some one shots that like people tend to like, and I've been going around the message boards.
Oh,
Yeah, fifth edition has broadened the amount of people that have come into D&D. And so, you get like more people, better writers, or more creative people that, and which is good. But yeah, it's like, I don't know if one shots have ever really been a published thing.
That's an interesting question. I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
Again, like,
that's some research to do.
I think in small amounts here and there, yes, or like as Momo was saying, the anthologies like can have them there, but like it's one of those things that's like a concept. I think because one shots are supposed to be so small, it's mostly been like DM will do it. It's 3 or 4 hours of content. DM will just do it. They'll worry about it all.
I could BS my way through 3 hours of D&D.
That's what I do every time I run a game.
There you go.
That is most of my sessions nowadays, Well, technically speaking, it's like, well, what were we doing last week? Okay, I'm remembering. What did I want them to do? Okay, I'm remembering. What did they do that might alter that? Okay, great. Is there anything else I want to add in? Okay, great. Boom, we're done.
It's like, all right, I got my document of lore drops if I need it. I'm just gonna sit here and bullshit while you ruin my time.
My document of lore drops for most of my games is Googling something.
Yeah.
It's like Faerun. Okay, there's records. Legacies of Kain. What is this vampire character's backstory? Oh, hey, that's interesting. I'll add that in. Magic. Where are they hanging out? Okay, that's great. Just look, pre-made worlds are so much easier to do stuff with. Just make your own version of it.
Oh no, I am building my own entire world and you can't stop me and it's hell.
Mm-hmm.
So you just start stealing.
I've done that before. I've walked away from that hell for some time.
Yeah, I mean I enjoy the creation stuff, but I think it's better when you do it with your players as opposed to statically.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, like, for what I generally run in, I just like change stuff, but use the world that exists already.
Well, that's one
I
of
think
those
that's
things. Is
just how it's just easier for me.
It's like been thinking back to like doing like Madness. If I go back to it, in a new form, I will probably either do Pathfinder or Pathfinder Second Edition because they're probably pretty interchangeable. And Pathfinder Second Edition is doing a good job of putting out a lot of monsters. Probably not all the same ones, but like, I probably wouldn't use all the materials I had before for certain. I'd probably just improvise a lot of shit because it's better that way. Because then I'm not beholden to like ridiculous dungeons that I kept building. So yeah, but no, Pathfinder one shots. They're claiming they're going to do more of these. Sundered Waves is their first adventure with their pre-made characters. I think they are technically, it is, I believe, for sale. It's not going to be print. I can't find where to click on shit for it.
Is that the? Where the hell is it? I thought I saw.
I didn't see anything about
it's
buying.
It's
$5. Yeah,
Okay.
it's $5.
$5.
That's really reasonable.
Yeah.
Man, these reviews already. 2 of them. Oof.
They're not nice.
2.5.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's not great.
In the standard creation correction. I found a lot of these. Well, there's a lot of comments on their like product page.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, just from this little description, it sounds like it could be fun.
Yes, I'll give you that. I'll definitely give
And
you that.
I take reviews of a one-shot with a grain of salt, because it depends a lot on who's running the game.
That is
yes. That is a heavy one, definitely. So, now the thing that we've kind of been hinting on that I do want to discuss a little bit of is comparing game editions and deciding game editions about what you want to play. Because the fact is, like, this is something
I have had this discussion so many times lately.
Oh, yeah.
We have been talking about this a little lately, and it's come up a little times lately, so I felt like it was something that actually should be kind of, like, talked about on stream, where other people can listen to the discussions on it. And the thing is, we kind of want to break down and take a look at... I thought 4 games would be pretty good for this. Because the games that some of us all have some experience with. Shadowrun, D&D, Pathfinder, and Vampire. So, like, when we talk about each of these, you talk about the different editions and running different editions. And I'm not going to be against making new editions. I'm going to say that first, as a kind of end-all, be-all to this conversation. Making a new edition of something can be fun. You can have something good. What I'm saying is, sometimes it's not good. And I think we should start with good old D&D, because 5th edition is a very good system. Too simplistic at times, but that's a different conversation. It was a good system. I think we all agree on that one, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 5th edition, it's great.
They could just 5.5 it and be like, here's a ton of optional stuff, introducing new PRC classes, or rather bringing PRC classes back, changing the way that like ASI and feats work. If you want to have the more 3.5 edition play, they could do that. They almost have enough feats to support that kind of thing now.
And they could do things like what Momo said, where like tie some like the secondary ability scores to
backgrounds.
Yeah. I like that idea a lot. As soon as you said that, I'm like, oh my god, that's a great idea.
I don't know why
it's a really good idea.
Backgrounds
they do that in Pathfinder 2nd edition. You get some ability score ups from your background. Like your background doesn't do much, but it gives you some ability score ups and a couple of abilities that are neat.
Yeah.
Oh, that was off. Oh, Jesus.
Oh no! What'd you break?
Oh, what's broken?
Apparently, let me just check what that is.
Alert's broken.
No, alerts was broken. Yeah.
Rip.
Spec.
Spaghetti.
Tactical spaghetti.
I don't know why alerts are broken. Is that supposed to be alerts? Which one of these is alerts in here? I really have to remake this in studio, because hopefully it'll work more. But whatever, I'll worry about it now.
Deal with it later.
I'll deal with it later. Alerts are broken, apparently, though.
This is a future Tantus problem.
The future Tantus... They really are future Tantus. So, with D&D, looking at its evolution, the early D&D was kind of very basic. We introduced things like THAC0, which were technically supposed to fix it, but if anybody's talked to anybody about THAC0, which we had a conversation with it, but that's another day, I'm going to say on that one.
Ooh, we should get Umber here for that one.
We really do.
Yeah.
THAC0 is not great.
No.
If you understand it, it's pretty easy, but it's like you have to have this gigabrain hurdle to go over to understanding THAC0 to begin with. It's sort of
it's the difference between doing math versus algebra.
Yes. Once you figure out algebra's not too difficult, but you have to understand its concepts first.
Yeah. So it's like, hang on. So I just need to roll this to hit? Yes. Alright, that's so much easier.
Why didn't they do that? And then we got to 3rd edition where they did that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I think I want to start the conversation with 3rd edition, because 3rd edition, it has problems.
Oh.
Not to say the least. Some of the rules are complex. I hated the way they did skills. Gonna be honest about that.
Oh my god, I'm playing in the 3rd edition Star Wars, and first of all, because we're playing through Roll20, it's the system, the sheets and stuff aren't as nice and updated as Pathfinder or 5th edition. Mm-hmm. So you have to do math on top of spending skill points, as opposed to you've spent this many, you don't get any more, or you have this many checked, you're done. But yeah, I'm sorry. I love the way Pathfinder does it. It's just so much better. Just period.
Yeah, the evolution from 3rd edition to Pathfinder, because it was 3rd, 3.5, even 3.5 did it better.
Yeah. They changed in 3.5.
They changed 3.5, I think. Was that where they got into the skills that were pretty Pathfindery? I don't think it was quite there.
I didn't think they changed skills at all for 3.5.
I don't know if they did.
I don't think they did. I think they still had the cross-class and class skills, and based on what class you were leveling up in, dictated which were class skills or not. It wasn't just a check mark saying, you know how to do this. It was are you leveling up as a fighter? These are your class skill. Everything else is cross-class. Oh, you're not a fighter anymore? You're going to level up as a rogue. Okay, well, now you get different amounts of skill points, and these are now your class proficiencies, and those ones over there are now cross-class.
Yeah, I think they're still cross-class, but...
cross-class is so awful.
I think they did something to make it better in 3.5. I can't remember, but...
I mean, if they did, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's hard to... Because it's I can't pick them up and compare them. I remember the basics of 3.0, and as much as Pathfinder was a little rusty. I'm sorry, it's been a decade since 3.5 or 2. I mean, it's a decade, 15 years or something ridiculous like that.
How dare you not remember?
I know. But it's. I think it's we get into the elephant in the room of D&D, 4th edition. I think that's the thing there. You can see the evolution of all the D&D systems. And not to say that 5th edition doesn't have its problems, and 5th edition might be too simple in certain ways, but 5th edition is still a very refined system, a relatively simple system, and a different kind of system than 3.5 and all the earlier editions. I'm going to say that.
Yes.
Because if I talk about 3.5 and all the earlier editions, characters are kind of similar on the way that they're built. You know, and I feel like they're more comparable to how Pathfinder is, with how they reflect characters. Pathfinder, and then 3.5 and earlier on, your character isn't a hero to start out with. You could just be a generic Joe Schmo that just happens to have like a slightly better training than someone else. There are NPC fighters and NPC wizards and all that kind of stuff all around you. You know, if you're level 1, you're not great. You have to build into heroics. I always say, 5th edition, you start as a hero.
Yeah.
They build you that way.
Kind of a bit strong in 5th edition at the start.
Yeah.
I think 5th edition is still relatively lethal at.
Oh yeah,
levels 1
it
and
can
2.
still be very lethal, but you're still stronger than like much stronger than the average commoner.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not really commoner stats in
There
5e,
isn't.
I don't think.
Commoners are monsters. Oh, I'm sorry, they're encounter stat cards.
Yeah, they do.
I happen to have the monster manual open for no reason at all. And if that's an animal, so that is the wrong one. A non-player characters.
Yeah, you go to non-player
commoners. Here's a commoner.
Uh-huh.
They have 4 hit points and 10 AC. They have 10s across the board. They can club you for 1d4 bludgeon damage.
Ooh.
And that's it. They are you are slightly stronger than a commoner, which makes sense because you have a class, an actual class like fighter or cleric or monk or something. Because if you look at like Pathfinder and 3rd edition, commoner was a NPC class and it did different things. And 5th edition just removed it as a class and just is like, here's a stat block.
Well, I think it comes down to a little bit of like customization. 5th edition removed that from the monster level of things as much. Like, you will need some kind of calculators, which you probably have to find online, to tweak with stats and still kind of figure out what challenge it is. Like,
or reflavor something.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like a reflavoring. Well, I have to say, in Pathfinder, I'm not as sure on 2nd edition because I haven't played around with it, but Pathfinder 1st edition, certainly, I could build an NPC and know how much challenge it is. Very easily.
But I think that is just part of the older type of systems, because if you look at Pathfinder and you look at 3rd edition, they're big, they're a little bloated, they're very rule heavy in many regards, and they're very deep systems, and they've had a lot of time to do that. Now, I guess the time argument isn't as valid as much as it used to be with 5th edition, because I'm more recent to 5th edition. But 5th edition, it just it takes a lot of that heavy stuff away and says, do you just want to play D&D? Here's 5th edition. You just kind of throw what you want in there, and it's a lot easier to like start up and play, and it's easier to explain. Where you look at like Pathfinder and 3rd edition, you can go really deep and really crazy into it. You can really customize things. That's not saying that you can't in 5th edition. It just wasn't built that way from the start.
Yes. And that's the thing is, like, that's a different kind of argument, because I think comparing 5th edition and 3rd edition, this is the point in time where I'm saying, like, both have good merits. I think 3rd edition has some problems that, like, they fixed in 3.5, and then fixed some more in Pathfinder, but that's
I'm kind of including 3.5 when I say 3rd edition, because they're,
Well, like, every time I talk about, like, 3rd edition, I also try to include Pathfinder, because it really is, like, 3.75.
It really is. It just is. It's like, hey, we really like 3.5, but we want to try and fix a couple things, and I think for the most part they did a good job.
Yeah. They refined what was there to an ultimate degree. 4th edition is like, people like it. And the thing is, like, I have to be honest. I played some 4th edition. I liked it for what it was. It was just a completely different game. They didn't like it really felt like an entirely different game. It was a 30-level system. It had like you had daily powers, utility powers, encounter powers, at will powers.
I have only ever experienced 4th edition through the online game of Neverwinter Nights. Not the old one, the new one. And it was like, I guess it's D&D. It's kind of weird. And then I went and looked it up. It's like, oh, it's 4th edition. All right. Okay, that explains why it's weird. And, I mean, it was fine from a video game standpoint. But, like, with Candace talking about how all the powers and stuff works, it's like, that sounds like it'd be really crazy and really heavily on the players to remember all these abilities.
Yes, you have to keep, like, the thing is, like, I have to talk about my character that I built. I built a tiefling warlock. I was technically evil, but I didn't do a lot of evil because I didn't have a lot of opportunities to. My backstory was I murdered someone, ran from a city, and then ran into one of the other PCs who was like, "You look trustworthy, join my quest."
Oh my god.
The character was actually that factious. There was like, it was Gretchen, who was a Goliath, and the funniest thing that happened was we were all of us were down in a hole, and one of us was like being carried away because you'd like try to like explore this like tiny tunnel off the hole, and we had like a rope attached to him, and something was pulling on the rope, and we're like, we're running out of rope space. Gretchen, throw us a rope. And instead of like throwing a line that we could tie off, all you see is like this like that like, you know, the cartoonish like the rope fall down and like just do into a little pile.
Coil on top of itself.
Yeah. So it was like, it was just like,
well, all right.
But anyway,
there's the rope.
So we had to print out character sheets, and they have an entire section of character sheets where they had these little like cards that you would have on your back sheets where your real power cards. I clipped them out and had a pile of these cards I could sort through and look at, here's my daily powers, here's my, you know, encounter powers, here's my at-will powers, which ones, like, you know, I sorted them how I would use them.
It sounds like a card game or board game,
it's
not D&D.
4th edition's a board game. I will always say that. It's a really good role-playing board game, but it's a board game because you can't play without a board. There's so many powers that manipulate the literal board. Like, move a guy 5 feet in any direction. You know, things like that. There's so many of those. And environmental stuff is critically important. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I had nothing to say.
I thought someone was going to say something. But, yeah.
No, the board game comment, I was like, it just sounds like a board game.
It really was. And like, it's not a bad board game. I got to be honest about that. There's fun parts about it. You know, I had a good time. I liked my character. The adventures, because we were playing through the first published campaign, were a mixed bag. Like, the first 2 were pretty good. The third one really kind of sucked because it was the entire third adventure was a dungeon. So, and it's a dungeon you get trapped in at the beginning.
Oh, that's always fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So you couldn't upgrade equipment. It was really hard to find places to, like, get rests and stuff. I mean, the most memorable that thing was when I got into a conversation with a dragon while my teammates stole its entire horde.
Oh, jeez.
I distracted it for like 10 minutes, you know, while they're stealing its horde. Because one of my people had a magical chest which could convert coins into other coins. So he would like throw gold in and convert them into platinum. Like all the silver and copper and gold just thrown in. Oh, so this is like 100 here. Oh, here's 10 platinum. And just hand it off to the next person over with like a bag of holding. So then we just keep passing it down the lane. I'm just stealing it. And I'm like, and I've got into like a philosophical debate with the dragon. Yeah, and it was Blaze that was stealing. Blaze was stealing it while I was, because he had a little box. You know,
that poor hard-working dragon.
Yes.
CEO Dragon Enterprises.
Yeah, but 4th edition, it's not really... I feel like if you talk about 4th edition, if you look at the system on its own, without saying it's D&D, it looks like a different fantasy system. It really is. It's just a different fantasy system with the literal skin of D&D skinned off of 3.5 and
what a graphic way to describe it.
Oh, It's like, here's this really neat fantasy board game we made. Oh, hang on. Let's just go over to this rotting carcass that is 3rd edition. Skin it. Oh yeah. Oh, it's a little decayed. It's fine. We'll just put some some perfume on it and just stretch it over this board game. There you go. D&D. Yeah.
Good as new. Perfect.
Hang on. Maybe we'll get some Botox in here.
No, put a little flower on top. It looks
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah. Oh, look how pretty it is. We'll get one of those high quality real hair wigs, put it on.
Yeah. Like, some of the stuff they did was, like, kind of weird. Like, there was, like, the joke of, like, they did little animations when they first put 4th edition out, which was one of the best things they did. That they did, like, interviews with the tiefling and the gnome, because the tiefling was a player character when they started out, and the gnome was a monster in the monster manual, and wasn't a playable race
those!
until the 2nd book of characters and races.
Oh my god.
I remember those! Holy crap,
so
that
it was
was
like-
so long
Think
ago.
Yeah, so, like, the gnome was like, it was great because the gnome was like, I'm a monster! Rawr! I've got a minion! And he picks up, like, a badger. Say hello, Francis! And they gave me this treasure to hand out to adventurers. And the interviewer's like, aren't adventurers supposed to kill you for that? He's like, what?
I can't believe I remember those things.
They were
Seen
good.
a few of these.
Oh,
The 4th
wow.
edition animations are very silly. I mean, does that sell you on it? No, but this is the kind of thing that, like, I think they can do that kind of hilarity and goodness with wizards, and they miss the ball on some things sometimes.
Sure.
You don't say.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot more on the Magic side. Got to be honest about that one. They're a little
Yeah.
better
Oh,
on
yeah,
the D&D
yeah.
side. But yeah. Anybody gonna say something there? Sorry.
I don't have much experience with D&D.
4th edition.
Like 2 sessions of 4th edition, didn't really like it.
Yeah.
And by the time when 5th edition came out, I was already like Pathfinder player.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like 4th edition, I liked it for what it was, I always say. Which is, again, more board gaming. And, like, it's not bad to play a board game sometimes. It's just, it's not D&D for what it was either before 4th edition or after it, I gotta be honest. Not as easy. Like, the adventures, I read through those original adventures. They had, like, no actual, like, role-playing moments built in.
oh, good.
Yeah, it's like, here's
Of
some
course.
towns, you can get some stuff in and some stats about it, and, here's some NPCs that they might interact with in those towns. Here's a little bit about them. But here's mostly the dungeons and adventures you're going on. Here you go. Lots of maps and designs, and, like, yes, it requires a lot of work to design for 4th edition because you need these, like, maps that actually have, like, here's some high ground which gives you bonuses and traps and all this crap which is around and etc. But that kind of moves us
Fun
on to
times.
Pathfinder, I think. Because Pathfinder, I feel, evolved in interesting ways on its own between editions. Like, as someone that's played both 1st edition Pathfinder, and I think both of you now have experienced 1st edition Pathfinder.
Oh.
4th edition
Sorry.
Pathfinder.
Whoa.
Oh, no.
Oh,
We're from the
jeez.
future.
Oh god.
But the future...
I have like Pathfinder's, I think, probably my second most experienced with tabletop game or tabletop RPG. And I've not really seen anything on 2E that much.
Yeah. My 2E experience is only from what Tantus is like, this is what we did in my 2E game.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, my basic critique of Ben 2E has been what? Some simple things. I love the character creation. I think it's really neat. I'm not sure if they use that for NPCs, because I haven't done a lot into their published material. So they might still use the basic character creation for certain NPCs and stuff like that. I don't know. Again, monster editing, didn't really get into that yet in 2nd edition. But on the player side, character creation, awesome. I love it a lot. I think it looks really cool, and it's a like 5th edition is a very different scaling system. It's a different scaling system than Pathfinder and the 30.5 D&Ds and earlier. So you're different scaling already. The fact that everything is a status ailment or a status effect, I kind of don't like that.
Yeah,
that's not
works.
great.
It works in some ways, and it doesn't work in others because it's too much stuff, I think, is a status.
Yeah.
There's
I've heard the tales of this.
There's some of it works well, and it's like, okay, that's neat, but there's just, again, like, it's just a little too much of it. And then, like, there are just some weird rulings around that don't work as well. Like, I've gotten into a discussion with these folks about something that happened in my second edition game. I may have even mentioned it on the show before, of, like, we figured out surprise. And if both parties are surprised, one party is surprised and one is not, neither party is surprised, you're perfectly fine, those work great. What happens is, when a group, let's say a group of enemies is hiding in different spots, and some of them are noticed, but not all of them are noticed, but then also the other side, only one person notices them, but not the entire side, and then combat starts, it's a
mess.
fuck. I call it a quag fuck. Not a quagmire, a quag fuck. It is a mess. It's not a normal situation to happen, but it can happen, and that's the goddamn problem.
Yeah, it's really pretty bad because you have like 2 different status effects, and you have to figure out who has them and then who goes, and we could have like a half an hour discussion just on how messed up it is.
Yeah, they could have just added a very simple rule in there that would reflected like surprise rounds from old combat, and it would have worked just fine. And granted, like, I think it's because of the fact that they have the keyword status effects that they had to do it this way, and fuck them in this situation.
Yeah, here's a situation. It's kind of like a third edition situation, right? Where it's like, all right, this is how it works, and then as you playtest, you're like, oh, there's this really weird edge case scenario where if this happens and that happens and this is all happening at the same time, then this happens and everyone hates it. So in 3.5, they're like, hey, we fixed that. It feels like they need to make an addendum or something, because while it's an edge case scenario, it doesn't sound... It doesn't want... The way you've talked about it makes me want to play second edition Pathfinder less, even if the chance is like 1 in a billion, because it's just how crazy it sounds. It's like, I don't want to experience that.
Well, again, like, I think that is that fortunately is more on the GM end anyway, because they have to figure out all that crap. Honestly.
But then it's the players are just kind of waiting around
Yeah.
while the DM is tearing their hair out. So when you're sitting around, no one's really having fun. The players just kind of hanging out. Maybe they BS with each other or something, but then the DM is like, oh crap, what happened? And then they have all this work to do.
It's also like, I have to say, like, the rules are organized in a very terrible way, I feel like. Because there has been a couple of times where I'm trying to figure out something, and I have to reference, like, 3 spots in the book, or 3
That just
different,
sounds
like
like Pathfinder.
articles in Archives of Nethys. Well,
That
like,
just sounds like Pathfinder to
I gotta
me.
be honest, like, if I wanted to look up something, and I went to the D20 PSFRD, I could put it in the Google search, and most likely, the first search on that page would be related to it.
Yeah.
Like, it would be right away. In this case, what it would be is I'd have to search for something, pick it up. That references something else that I got to search for to pick that up, which references something else which I've got to search for to pick that up. So it's like, I understand the need to, like, search out these rules because, like, I gotta be honest, like, the thing is, I'm experienced with the Pathfinder first edition book, and I understand where they put things. The second edition book, I feel like, again, like, it's not ordered as well as it could be, and it was sort of like, they define some basics and then go into advanced stuff, and they expect you to remember those basics a lot of times. And I think it's trying to make it more generic, which it kind of does, in a way. It simplifies certain things with the rules, but the unfortunate thing is then it makes it more difficult to reference those rules when you need to know them. So, it's this weird trade-off of making it simpler yet more complex. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they did.
They tried to make something simpler. Most likely what happened is they had a basic idea, because I have been trying to create a board game for like a billion years now. And I originally started off with something that was really, really complex. And it was like, this is really cool, but you'd have to have someone whose job is basically they're the economy, like like a banker of Monopoly, except for like 10 times harder. Because it's not just like, you give out money when people land on spaces or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it was like a full-fledged economy system. And it's like, well, I can't do that in a board game. I need to simplify this. And so I boiled it down and boiled it down and boiled it down. And I got it to somewhere that if I just, get off my ass and start writing, it would probably work in a board game setting. But you could take it up and be more complicated if it was like a video game or something like that, because then the computer will handle all that stuff. But you have to start at something simple first. So what most likely happened, because I've experienced this, is they boiled it down to a really simple concept, and then we're like, cool, we're going to start working from this. And then they later added things that are like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if I had this? Or hey, we forgot to add this from the first edition or whatever. And they pile it onto a very simplistic system that wasn't designed for that from the start. It's my theory, anyway.
That can make sense, because again, like, it's the idea that there's basic stuff. There's like basic saves and basic attacks and basic this. And the word basic is like something they kind of use as a keyword. And then like they moved from basic to more advanced.
Yeah.
So.
Shadowrun?
Shadowrun. Let's talk about
Shadowrun.
Shadowrun is really interesting because I feel like the editions have been basically very similar since 3rd edition.
Yeah, I have said this before on many occasions. Shadowrun is like one of the coolest settings, but depending on what edition you're gonna play, it's hell. It is such a bloated system depending on what edition you're gonna play in.
Yeah.
I played 5th edition because the game master I was playing with was like, I don't like 6e because it's just a boiled down 5e and it takes too many things out of the game.
The problem with, I will say, first I will go and say the most popular editions of Shadowrun, from what people have told me from seeing, are 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Those seem to be the most popular ones from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I only really have experience with 5th, and I think 5th is a bloated mess that is bogged down by too much stuff.
I have done every edition up till 5th, so I can talk about all of them. 1st and 2nd are very similar systems. I gotta say that. 2nd edition is kind of like a refinement of what it was in 1st edition. They fixed some problems. The thing is, that system was still relatively complex. I gotta be honest with you, I didn't delve much into like hacking or magic in 2nd edition because they were a kind of bloated mess of their own, and things like 2nd edition had it like weird stuff, like you had a lot of dice, and if you would roll a 6, you'd re-roll a die, and you'd add those numbers together to get a new target number. So you'd have things like target numbers in this, but you have target numbers like, my target number is 10. Well, you can only get that by rolling a 6 and a 4.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the newer version better, where it's a dice pool.
I've not really looked into 6th at all. So.
Well, I'm talking about 5.
Oh,
in this
5.
case.
Right.
Where basically, like, it's a difficulty of like 3 or something, right? So you
Yeah,
need 3
yeah.
successes. And you roll your dice pool.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
It kind of got to the point of bloatedness where we were like, what if we just stop doing combat so we can actually do shit?
We never had any combat in the game I played. It was all set up heist.
Combat
planning.
is not great.
Combat has
at least in
never
my
been
opinion.
perfect. It's always
Yeah,
had its
that's from
issues,
what I've heard.
but like I feel like by the time they got to third edition, they fixed a lot of those problems. Like third edition, fourth edition, fifth edition are very similar systems, I have to say. Like they switched around the dice systems and made them pretty close to each other at that point. So that's kind of where the evolution of those kind of moved in.
Isn't fourth and fifth almost the same system except for the way you build characters is the major change?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
I didn't hate my time in Shadowrun.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a difficult one for me to be like I like it or I hate it. There's things I like. I really like the setting and the world, and then there's mechanics I absolutely hate.
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
So in our game, we had a technomancer who had all kinds of crazy super abilities. Oh, look, there they are in chat. Hi there, how you doing? And we had a mage who had all these crazy abilities. Early on, we had a rigger, the one that controls drones. So they had all their things, and I was kind of playing a basic like street samurai, right? I had stealth skills and I had a little bit of gun skills, and because of the way we were playing the game, we didn't have combat was like we want to avoid combat as much as possible. So I just kind of dipped into combat like just in case, but my character was more about sneaking. But because of the way we built our characters, everyone could kind of do the same job, but they did it differently. So, but people were so focused that it's like, I'm going to go do this. Well, no one can help you do that, you know? So we ended up kind of being our own like islands in this game, and there was a kind of a disconnect, and there was some character lack of meshing that didn't happen, and we were all brand new to the game, and so it got better like later on as we were playing, but it was kind of a really rough first experience. But it's one of those things that I wouldn't mind doing it again, but I think you need a lot more direction from your game master in like, hey, this is what the game's going to focus on, and also you guys should really like make sure everyone is decent in combat. You know, combat may not come up, maybe it'll come up more often depending on if you guys like it, but like everyone should be at least decent in this, and then like try and pair up a little bit. Like if you have like you could have two hackers, right? But one of them is more just like, I just help the other guy, or I do my own thing, so that you can both be doing things like on the Matrix or whatever, or magic or like infiltrator stuff. Because when I mean, this is my experience, right? And not every experience is the same. But when all the characters are their own kind of island, in that these are their abilities and they don't overlap like at all, I think it makes it harder to play as a team, and that kind of, because you're playing a team game, it takes away a lot of the enjoyment.
Well, this is one of the things I've always talked about with Shadowrun, which like I think is oftentimes ignored by a lot of people when they're thinking about the system. You don't think of your character as like a specialist. Like what you have to think about is like, granted you are a team, but you have to think about, how did I do jobs and stuff on my own?
Yeah.
You know, you have to ask yourself that question. How would have I done smaller beginners jobs on my own? Like, you have to have, like, who's my person fixer? Who is my contact? You know, do I have someone like that? Was I always relying on someone else for that? Do I have skills to negotiate at all? Do I have skills to be, like, stealthy, combat skills? You know, you have to kind of jack of all trades a little bit and then kind of specialize. And I feel like those are good Shadowrun characters, is you don't just hit the specialization button right away, especially in the newer systems. By the time they got to 3rd edition, that became much more of a thing that I felt like was important. Like the earlier editions, you probably could have not worried about it as much, but like, yeah, it's unfortunate that like it's a concept that's kind of hard to explain, because like a lot of role-playing games, they want
you don't want to overlap.
You don't want to overlap. This is like a weird case where overlapping is pretty good to have some of.
Like I will say the one thing I will say about my overall experience with Shadowrun, I liked it enough to be in a very long campaign of it. I had a lot of fun playing a rigger. It can be very fun. It's just very easy to get bogged down in at times, which can be a big problem. So it slows things down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does.
Well, that's why, like, I do like in, like, let's say 5th edition and 4th edition, both of them came up with, like, magic. It's complex. I'm not going to argue with that ever. But they did things like provide, here's a list of the steps. And if you understand these steps, most of them you can skip through and make it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it boils down to, like, technically, like, there's, like, 9 steps. Really, if I'm going to use magic, it ends up being 3 things. I declare something, I roll my dice for using it. If it's an attack spell or something that has an effect on something, it rolls its resistances. And then I roll... if I need to, even, with how I built my character, I might roll some kind of drain.
Yep. You can kind of compare it to, like, how there's a lot of steps in Magic if you look at, like, Magic in Pathfinder or D&D or whatever, but a lot of it is just like, can you see the target? How many things does this affect? What do you need to do the action? A lot of that stuff is the same for Shadowrun. They just explain it in a way that makes it sound super complex. It's like, can you see the target? Are they a target? Are they an object? And then, like, is there more than one of them? And a lot of that stuff you just hand wave. It's just like it's not that complex. Stop writing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, like, when you get a hold of it, it becomes simplified, and, like, from 4th edition onwards, they technically made all 3 realms of reality, like the astral plane, the matrix, and actual reality, pretty much the same thing, and it's just a matter of, doing them either at the same time or differently. It made it a lot easier to do that. So, I mean, they've fixed things. Yeah, I do agree. I think, like, 6th edition, I've only looked over some of the basics of it, and maybe I wouldn't mind its simplifications. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know enough about 6th edition to really make any judgments on it.
6th edition is like the D&D 5e of Shadowrun, if that explains anything.
Well, I feel like comparing 4th edition and 5th edition, there is no good comparison about it, because they're basically the same thing, except with, like, character creation's different, and they switched skills around a little bit. Like I gotta be honest, like, there is a conversion chart, or conversion information. You know what it is? A single page. That's it. There's a single page for converting from 4th edition to 5th edition.
I also might be massively oversimplifying it, but that's kind of the take I get, is 6th edition Shadowrun is what 5th edition D&D is to D&D 3.5. So, because I the biggest thing I've seen that I remember from reading is the way combat works. Is it's very much more like D&D in that, like, you will get hurt, but it's to be expected. Where in the older one, like, getting shot with the gun is bad. You don't want to get shot.
It's not great.
And so that's like, they removed armor soak and stuff, and it's just like, it's just kind of assumed that you will take damage and then heal up after the battle. So it's because I don't remember it a lot. I can open up the book, but that's a whole horribleness of ness.
That feels a lot more like switching from 3.5 to 4th edition. Gotta be honest, rather than 5th.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. We played 5th, and I only cursorily looked over at 6th, but that's kind of what 6 was. Is they removed some things like armor resistances and things, and they just give you, like, more hit points, basically.
I will say, if I am, like, misremembering things about Shadowrun, I was in, like, university when I played it. And that's been 6 years. I'm old. Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I played.
It's been a very long time.
Last year is when we had our Shadowrun.
I would like to do it again, but
one of these days, I will finally play the like. There's a set of pre-made adventures that are technically 4th edition. I was going to convert to 5th edition. I was going to run them. It's like 3 of them. So, I mean, it's a short campaign, but I would love to run them because it provides most of what a person needs to run a Shadowrun world, which is The part I hate most about Shadowrun is making stuff because there's so many layers and details.
It's such a cool setting, though.
It's an incredibly cool setting. But when I can cheat and not have to make
Yeah,
all
when
that
you
crap
can
for
just cheat
myself.
and steal things.
Yeah,
There you
not
go.
build an entire city on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I could just be like, oh, here's all the stats I need. Oh, they're going to hack in. This is the kind of defenses this has. Great. Oh, they're going to do magic shit. Oh, this is the kind of defense it has. Great. I don't have to
Yeah.
make up and remember all this stuff because you provide it for me.
Yeah, that's one thing that Shadowrun I think is bad at, is providing pre-built worlds.
Yeah.
They give basics, but then it's sort of like, have at it to DMs. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's like, sandbox mode, go. I'm like, no, I need more. Please, more. Here's your shovel. There's the box.
You shovel in your bucket,
And-
go
and they
build the
push
castle, and then they shove you in the sand.
And they shove you in the sand and then kick you, and then they rub dirt in your face and just they break your dinosaur CD-ROM.
Yeah, so Shadowrun's an interesting one because I feel like if I talk about it, like Pathfinder, I could stick with first, or I could try some more second. I haven't hated second enough to not play more. D&D, 5th edition's probably where I would stick with. Going to older editions kind of be harder.
Ooh,
Roll20,
I can
might
tell
be-
you that I've experienced it, and it is definitely strange. Especially because I've been playing 5th edition and Pathfinder, and now I'm in basically a 3rd edition or 3.5
Oh, boy.
D20 game, and the amount of differences are just kind of like, why did they do it like this? I mean, it's so much better in like X version or Y version or something, that I have actually talked to the GM and be like, hey, they do this in a different version. It's so much better. Do you want to use that? And then, they're like, yeah, that sounds better. Let's use it.
I think it's also like 4th edition. Like I could say, honestly speaking, if someone was going to run a 4th edition game and invite me to it, I could play it. But the thing is,
Roll 20.
Yeah, because of Roll20.
Yeah.
Because Roll20 makes it so much better because it's a board game based system.
Roll20 is one of the best tools for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, if that was a good example of anything, it's a stat needs simple calculation. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I agree. Shadowrun missed the class and simplified. I mean, I think there's some small 4th edition adventures that have maps provided that I could just put up on Roll20, and I would not mind doing a 4th edition game if I did that, to be honest. Because when you have all those maps and stuff, and I have the books that set up things, like, I gotta be honest, back in the day of doing 4th edition, some of the issues were things like,
Maps.
setting them up, and tokens.
Oh yeah, but not you. It's easy nowadays.
Like, I have a billion... I was using my D&D minis that I got from back in the day when they had the 3.5 3.5 D&D minis. But it was sort of like, what's the closest fit I have here? I'd look through them. It made me a DM assistant in every game we did because we were switching out DMs for the adventure, which was an interesting concept that our players would become NPCs. I was going to run the 5th one, which was going to be like a Dragon Mountain one, which would have been real cool, but I never got to it.
Rip.
Sadness. But like, like 4th edition D&D, Pathfinder, both of them, 5th edition D&D mainly. I'd say Shadowrun 4th or 5th editions I'm okay with.
Yeah, those are like, I mean, everyone kind of has like a different opinion on what the best one is. No one can agree with Shadowrun.
And also, no one's correct either.
Yeah,
There
no
is
one's
no
correct.
best one.
It highly depends on what you want.
No, there is no best one. There is the what is okay.
What's okay and what's easier on you.
And also what kind of experience you want. I mean, that's like you look at 5th edition, right? This is a comment. This is a conversation that I've had a lot with many different people, and it's a fairly common topic in general, is people taking something and being like, can I run this in 5th edition? And the answer is obviously always yes, but that can apply to anything. Like, I want to have Star Wars, sure, you could make it in 5th edition. Is it going to be the best version? I don't know. Maybe the people that are playing in the game really like that system, so for them, sure. But you can take Pathfinder or Starfinder and you can run like Star Wars in it, or you can take Edge of the Empire, which is built for Star Wars, but maybe you don't like the way that does it. You know, it's always.
There we go. There's my proper response to Josh.
yeah. It really depends on your DM and your players and what you want, and like the experience you want. I mean, because there are systems that are either designed to do what you want, or there's things that you're comfortable with that you'd like to see additions onto.
Yeah. The thing is, like, there's always going to be issues with systems, and especially like what you were kind of talking about there with adapting something to something else. It's not necessarily bad. I could take the world of Shadowrun and do a 5th edition Shadowrun world game.
Oh, it'd be weird.
It'd be
weird.
weird.
Yeah.
But you could probably third party / homebrew something that would do equivalent to it.
Oh man, speaking of that, there was a Kickstarter to do just that. A Shadowrun experience 5th edition module.
Was there?
Yes, there was. I linked it a while ago. I don't think I have linking powers. Oh wait, no, I should have linking powers.
You have mod powers. You have linking powers.
I do. Let me see. It was Discussing Tabletop. Where? Nope. That is that the right version? Oh man, it's so long ago when I linked it.
Oh god.
Where was it?
I should probably give
Discussing Tabletop. Here it is.
Mod powers. He's here a lot.
Is it still up? I don't know. I'll just link it. This was the Kickstarter.
He has the power now too.
That was the Kickstarter for a cyberpunk based for 5th edition. It looked neat. They massively succeeded.
Oh yeah, no, they smashed it. Yeah.
Yep.
You can pre-order it now.
So you could use that to make a 5th edition Shadowrun. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there you go.
I think I got to be honest. Like, as much as we had like issues with dark matter and talked about like those issues that were with it using dark matter, I could probably come up with a 5th edition Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
You know,
like those things exist. But it's like, is that the experience you want to have, right?
Yeah,
you could just play Cyberpunk or not Cyberpunk. Well, yeah, Cyberpunk Red is a thing now.
Yeah,
and then Shadowrun. Which version do you want? Yeah.
The Fantasy Flight Star Wars game, the Modifius Star Trek game. You know, you have all these, you know, brands that you could just do in that way. Yeah. So there's one last of these I wanted to bring in here because I have mixed feelings about the setting. But I forget which one of you had talked more about playing in it. Was that you? Like,
yeah, I think it may have been me interested in playing it because I have zero experience with this.
5th edition Vampire the Masquerade.
I have absolutely zero experience with any of the World of Darkness stuff outside of Legacy.
Let me start out with this. Some of the basics of how it is. The first 4 editions of Vampire the Masquerade, and I'm not talking about the Chronicle of Darkness crap because that's technically a different system-ish. Similar, but different. We're going to say that. But the 5th edition, or the first 4 editions, were pretty much the same. They fixed little things in the rules, and the combats, and the skills, and all the stuff like that. They did some refinements here and there up until the 20th anniversary. They had their revised edition. There's like another edition in there that I'm not sure what it's called because they never called them 4th edition. Like V20, which is what I use for Legacies of Kain, is 4th edition, really. And it's the refinement of everything in those first 3 editions where I'm not sure where they exist, kind of nebulously. Because, again, up until 5th edition, they didn't call them by number.
I don't actually know if it was Vampire's 5th edition I was interested in or not. Because I heard like bad things. Well, I heard some pretty bad things about it. It might have been I was interested in werewolves more than vampire.
Yeah, because Werewolf, the 20th anniversary is pretty good. Because again, it's a refinement of all the rules, and I always like those rules refinements. And I think there's been talk of a 5th edition or whatever would equivalent be a 5th edition Werewolf, because I don't know if there's also been 5 editions of those. I'm not sure on that one. If I'm going to be honest.
I can say that I played a Vampire Masquerade 5th edition game, and I can only speak for myself, right? I didn't really have a good time, but that could also be the DM. Like, Candace and I have talked about it off screen, a lot, and it's kind of like you're like, oh, I wouldn't run it like this, just straight up, or I would change this, and it's like, oh, that sounds like a good change, and it could just be the DM. So my opinion of 5th edition Vampire is super biased.
Well,
I did not like the game I played in.
I think it's because they changed the tone. The tone
Yeah.
in the first 4 editions was a combination of 2 tones. You facing off against the inner demon inside of you kind of thing. The monster inside of you, and dealing with that as a constant threat to your existence. Plus, also dealing with the monsters around you is the second one, and the political intrigue of doing that. So it was this mixed bag of, like, monster within, monster without. Something like Legacies of Kain, I focus more on the monsters without. That's the focus I like doing, but I respect that you can have a balance between those, or just one of them. 5th edition, from the rules I've heard through you, Lightning, and through stuff I've read on my own, primarily focuses on the monster within.
Yeah.
That it, rather than having a system that allows you to do either, it shoves the focus specifically on the one mainly. Now, it doesn't mean you couldn't have the political stuff, but I gotta say, like, a lot of the world setting stuff that they've changed that I've read up on, for, like, history, backgrounds, and stuff like that, kind of pertains to that, like, other side of, monster within, and dealing with a lot of that politics. They've made it that, like, I'm sorry, I really hate the way that they did the Inquisition that they have now, because it's supposed to be like, everybody's separate from each other, you don't get the same kind of politics and stuff existing, because you have to deal with, people hunting you down constantly and worrying about that. And I'm like, I feel like they took it too far. I don't think it would go this extreme. I gotta be honest. Not to say that,
It couldn't, but the odds of it happening are
Yeah, that feels weird.
not realistically possible. Humans can't agree with each other, first of all. So
Yeah.
why are they going to be like, why would they suddenly, everyone in the world be like, hey, you're right, we need to stop this extra force and make this secret organization to deal with it that technically always existed, but now they've given them emergency power. They've Star Wars'd it. They Star Wars prequeled Vampire.
Oh, no.
They Star Wars I think that's exactly true. They Star Wars prequeled Vampire and added in this level of threat that I'm like, yeah, sure. If like the CIA learned about vampires and wanted to do stuff about it, they could. And they were trying to still keep it secret, they could. But it's still one organization, and they're not going to get along with all the other organizations, because they're not going to go to the KGB and say, hey, vampires are real, because that, why would they help an enemy? Or not, the KGB doesn't exist, but whatever the Russian version.
I forget what the Russian one is called.
But there's also, like, other organizations, like the Chinese secret intelligence people, and, like, even some of our, in quotation, allies. Would we trust them enough? And how much, like, problems are there with, like, the problems in political nature anyway, There's only so much you can keep secret, and if you're not talking about a lot of these things, it doesn't help.
I mean, like, I'm gonna have to hazard a guess based on actual human history, specifically American history. America's not gonna share shit with anyone if they would learn vampires exist. America's gonna try to deal with it themselves, like always.
Yeah,
So I think everyone uniting against it, that's a bit silly.
yeah. Again, like, it's still, like, it's technically a secret, but there are humans that know about it and hunt them, but the way they do it, that because, like, vampires can't use, like, you have to be careful using cell phones, and you have to be, like, they're no longer, there's no longer the same kind of travel between cities, and vampires have to worry about going to different places. It sounds ridiculous. I gotta be honest.
It's pretty confining. I also felt like really weak as a vampire, like me as a human, like me Lightning the human being. I own guns or whatever, and I could be more or just as deadly as a supernatural vampire being that is like just recently sired. Feels a little weird, but that could be my experience with D&D, which is more of a fantasy setting.
Starting vampire characters, like, if we're talking about V20 or earlier, are, because it's pretty much, the character creation has been the same through all of those. I'm not sure how they do it in 5th edition. Again, 5th edition I've read up some stuff on, and then I've heard a lot from you and some other people that I've talked to about it, and I feel like, because the character creation was always kind of more the same, it worked fine, and the fact is, your characters could feel relatively powerful. Are you all powerful? No, you never were. It's just that also, like, guns do, like, half damage to vampires in the older editions.
I think they probably still do in 5th edition, but the damage / hit points, the stuff like you can absorb, I don't think might be as high.
Okay.
It's been a while since I played, like, actually, like, a year maybe, or more, but it like, I remember, like, the shotgun example we've used before, where it's kind of like a random dude with a shotgun could, especially at close range, knock you out just in, like, a round. In the 5th edition, whatever, you, like, walk around the corner and the guy's like, "Oh no!" and shoots you with the shotgun. It's gonna hit you. It's a shotgun, and you could go into torpor or something by just being shot with a shotgun. And you're like, that wouldn't happen in V20 or something. It would hurt a lot,
in V20,
but you wouldn't.
I don't think you'd be necessarily dropped, but like, because they say, like, V20, they, like, for warning about things like, modern firepower can still be dangerous. They say, like, a shotgun to the head will still kill you because it will take off your head. But, like, a shotgun to the torso, that's a different kind of thing, So it's like, a shotgun's a threat. Yeah. It's like in V20, they don't deny that a shotgun's not a threat to people, to vampires. It's just...
I mean, I might have the rule book still in here, because I've shuffled all my rule books around. But, like, I mean, I couldn't even look it up, because it's so... making a character and looking at damage and stuff is not the same thing like in D&D, where things are pretty simplified. It's like, oh, well, the average person at low level is going to have anywhere from 6 to 14 hit points or something, and this is what a gun does. You can't really look that up with vampire.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a vampire that's maybe not built relatively, I'd call them weak. Vampires that are built less physically tough still take half damage from guns and things like shotguns, but, like, a good shot could probably still drop you, especially if they get a really good shot on you, like a headshot or, like, a really good one straight to the torso at point blank range might still drop you. But I don't think it's as guaranteed as it sounds like it is in 5th edition kind of thing. That's like I don't have a lot of soak for damage, and even the soak I have, I get no successes. So I'd, like, take all the damage, and then they rolled maximum damage or something ridiculous, like, because again, like, the combat system's a little janky. It's more like you roll your attack, then your attack does dice of damage, you roll your dice and see how many damage you're dealing with those dice. Which a shotgun, I think in, like, 20th anniversary, it does, like, 8 dice. I still have to roll on 8 dice, like, to drop a vampire, which I think you have, like, 7 levels of health normally. I still have to roll 7 6s or more or at least 7 6s or higher on only like 8 dice. Mathematically, that's hard. And then the target I'm going to have is going to have the ability to like not soak damage. So it ends up being very difficult. And,
I have pulled up the book.
again, like the Inquisition shit is the thing I hate the most. I hate the way they do the Inquisition shit. There are parts of the storyline in V20 in 5th edition I like. Gotta be honest about that. A lot of the clan changes I thought were really interesting.
Addendment. I do not have the book. My thing is being dumb.
Unfortunate.
I might have the 5th edition book. I don't want to pull it open and look through it right now.
I mean, the thing is, like, doing it in this format, it would take too long to look things up. I just remember it being not very strong. But I mean, like Momo was saying about the Shadowrun, like, you played that like several years ago. That's the same thing with me and Vampire. I just remember that we basically, for some reason, there was a older vampire that was pissed off at us, and I remember looking through the rule book and seeing, like, is there any way we can, like, physically fight this person? Because it sounded like they wanted to physically fight us. And I was looking in the book, it's like, there's no way, unless we get incredibly lucky, that we can face this older vampire. He would just kill us because aggravated damage is ignored or whatever, right? And so it's like, what the hell do we do? But, like, before we could, like, do any plans and talk to anybody, the game ended. So, but I remember that was a thing. They're like, this combat would be stupidly dangerous and deadly. Like, even though we outnumbered them like 5-1, right? Like, they would just down us in like 1 or 2 hits. Yeah. But that was vampire versus vampire. But I mean, guns were pretty dangerous too. Some Second Inquisition or Third Inquisition or whatever dudes attacked us. It was 2 dudes in armor. We did manage to beat them, but they also took one of our people down. And mind you, it was 2 versus 5, where we were the 5. I think it was 5 players. Most of us ran away, but one dude went after one that was running and downed them with the gun. I don't know what gun it was. Maybe it was a machine gun or something. But that happened, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just... 5th edition just has so issues, I think, with the way that they present stuff and stuff like that. And I'm always unhappy about it.
Yeah, you really have to read through it. I mean, you've got more experience from other vampire games that I think would help you, as far as seeing where certain things could end up being bad in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Where I just don't have that experience, so I was brand new to the system.
When you were describing all the hunger-based stuff, that
yeah, every single roll.
Yeah, that is just... It was ridiculous. It was insane. I was not happy about it at all. I was like, this is just kind of terrible.
Because you have hunger dice, and they are, depending on how full you are, because there's so much you can eat or whatever, and you never can be full unless you kill someone, and if you kill someone, that's bad. You like get a stain or something. It's bad to murder someone by feeding off of them. So you will always have hunger dice in your pool unless you are like evil or something, like super evil, and then it's a whole different game at that point. But when you roll the hunger dice as part of your normal dice pool, if the hunger dice come up with a whatever number or something, it's a bad thing, basically. It's like you're like, I'm hungry, and you want to eat somebody or something.
I feel like they took things to extreme, because they had the humanity score in older editions, and I can understand if you look at the way that they do the humanity score, that unless you're specifically playing with it a lot, it's not that detrimental. I gotta be honest, it's not that detrimental, it doesn't hurt that much. It's really hard to say that this thing, the humanity score, is something to worry about, necessarily. It can be. But, again, not as much. It's a lot harder to bring in, through that at least, the entire issues with the characters. The entire, like, psychological, in quotation, human-based issues. Because I feel like when I want to talk about those stories about it, it's more I have things happen with the characters and I talk about with the characters about their, in quotation, human or inhuman nature. And I feel like the stats don't reflect it as much, so they introduced these hunger dice. But the problem with the hunger dice, I feel like they took it to too much of an extreme, almost, I would say. They, like, made it... what's the way I want to describe this? More powerful?
Oh, here we go. I
More
found the
different?
book.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh, mature content warning. There's bad
Ooh.
stuff in the vampire
Oh
game.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the book is too meaty to go through on stream. But there's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something that, like, if you wanted to have a show dedicated to just going through vampire and stuff, you could just have an entire, like, 2-hour session just talking about vampire and how they've changed things. Hunger dice. Hey. For each level of hunger affecting a vampire character, they gain 1 hunger dice. Hunger dice are a 10-sided, just like regular dice, but should be different color than regular dice, so players can easily spot them in a pool. We suggest red. When a player builds a dice pool for a vampire character, they exchange regular dice from that pool for hunger dice, for a 1-for-1 basis. If the dice pool for the roll is lower than the character's hunger, simply roll a number of hunger dice equal to the character's pool. And then there's a bunch of explanation on how that all works that I'm not going to read.
And
But
what effect it has
basically,
on your character, and et cetera, yeah.
you can fail and the beast will take over, is the short version of it.
Like, I don't mind making the beast more of a threat. That's the thing I kind of say about it. I don't mind that. I just feel like they just took it too far.
Yeah.
They went too extreme on it.
And that's kind of, we can kind of turn that back into the things we talked about earlier, is play in a setting that you want to tell the story in.
Yeah.
If you want a very, hunger based, you are a monster now, the 5th edition probably does that really well. If you want to play that kind of vampire game, here you go. It's all there for you.
Yeah. No, I agree on that one. That like, that's the way. Like, if your storyline focuses on that more primarily, maybe 5th edition's for you. Granted, like, I'm still gonna defend V20 and all the earlier editions, because you could still have that. It's sort of like, you could still have that, but not make it your primary focus. You had the option.
Yeah.
With including, like, in the rules set, this hunger dice that you always kind of have and have to deal with the consequences of. It's like you always have it, and always deal with the consequences of. You can't ignore it, ever. I don't know. But yeah, that's our basic, like, hour-long discussion on gaming editions.
Oof. And we could continue, because I have the book and I could start reading from it.
If we wanted to have a week of talking about vampire and particularly its issues, that would be something we would make on its own.
Yes, definitely, because there's a lot of things you could talk about.
Yes, I want to kind of, like, maybe cut back on some of the news and highlight some more really interesting top-tier news stuff, and then do a lot more focus on some of these, deeper discussions on interesting tabletop stuff, and the various things around them. Kind of feel it could be fun to do.
I also already linked to Kickstarter things, so if you want to check that out, if you want Cyberpunk 5e,
yeah, you can pre-order the book for like $30, I think.
It's a Kickstarter. That's our Kickstarter for this week, the Cyberpunk thing.
It's already completed.
Boom!
They probably have like a, you can still get it, or some kind of like
pre-order it for $25.
Yeah, I'm sure you can still buy it. I'm clicking on it. Yeah, pre-order.
Yeah, you can pre-order it.
The week in tabletop's been a mixed bag. I have not had as many shows just because of my sickness, and we've had some issues with a lot of shows. Like, gotta be honest, it's I mean, I played a Luxodon on Sunday. That was fun.
You also played Marty again.
I played Marty again. I like playing Marty. This week will be interesting with Marty and like seeing what we're doing with this because it's supposed to be the Hot Springs episode.
Yeah, we had our beach episode already.
The beach episode was also the cave episode in which you murdered like 17 fish people.
Yeah, it was the fish killing episode too.
And 10 crabs afterwards.
Oh yeah, and crabs and some cultists.
And some mind flayers, not mind flayers, intellect devours. There was 2 of those you killed.
Yeah.
You saved a creepy person in a mask.
Yeah.
Who's now buddying up with a creepy person in a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there were some totally normal crabs that were just like, hey, we smell dead fish people. Let's go eat them. And then a barbarian attacked them, and they're like, oh, defend yourself. To arms, my minions. Yeah.
That was a thing that happened.
Yeah. It was hilarious and also awful because okay. So for reference here, if people missed I don't know if you talked about it last week because last week was different, but the Kuatoa have nets. And they kept throwing them on the barbarian and like always hitting him. So the barbarian was always netted, and which reduces your movement. You're restrained or whatever, and then you can still attack from it, but you get disadvantage. So they just recklessly attack from inside this net, and then the crabs grapple you because they're medium-sized crabs. They're absolutely chonguses, right? And so when they pinch you, pinch, you get grappled, which reduces your movement to 0. And the barbarian attacked them, and so they went up there and pinched the barbarian. I think Joe was down to like 2 hit points at one point.
He was going on about his nipples.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Yeah. But now you're going to be going and relaxing in the totally normal hot springs, and nothing bad will happen.
Just totally normal hot springs with a party of totally normal people.
Yeah. Momo, you've had other games though, haven't you?
I have had some other games, yes. Specifically one other game because we keep canceling games.
Oof.
I had my Thursday game in which we're hunting down a cult, and I decided to traumatize someone's character in our party who I'm good friends with like, hey, I got these wings from my god, and I just bamped them out, and they kind of cried a little because it was terrifying.
Oh.
And then we're in the middle of like this big sort of organization that hunts down magical creatures that are a danger, and I see the cultists we're supposed to be chasing. I'm like, all right, this is gonna get weird, and I just bamf out the wings and start chasing with murderous intent, right in the middle of a bunch of people who probably want to kill me.
Nice.
Look,
we'll see how that ends up.
I had a good time scattering the vampire characters to the different areas of the world. So like, they're gangrels in the middle of the outback, and I sent Nathan and Samuel are hanging out in Vietnam.
Oh, nice.
Umber, his character Leslie, is in Madagascar. And then I sent Dawn and Ryan to Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, good for Dawn and
But
Ryan.
the thing is, you have to remember about them. Ryan never has his phone because he shape changes.
Oh, no.
Dawn never charges her phone because it's Dawn. And neither carries money because Nathan always pays for everything.
Good God.
So they're in Rio without any money, without a charged phone. Dawn has her phone, but it's not charged.
Oh, cursed.
I did take Umber, cursed. Everybody else did manage to find some level of civilization. Well, I mean, Emil in the outback, he is a gangrel, can sink into the earth to hide during the day. So he's like, I guess I'll wander about and eventually find my way back out of here.
Downtown?
And I had Nathan and Samuel appear in the middle of a rice paddy field.
Oh.
In Vietnam. That was a good one. And then Umber wandered through a forest and followed a river until he found civilization in Madagascar. Because apparently Madagascar is relatively well civilized. There is natural areas, but it's they are it's kind of like areas of the U.S. that they're
Yeah.
like
Like-
surprisingly close.
You wouldn't think it, but
Granted, I think
Well,
there's
that's
some
good
areas.
for Umber.
Yeah, I think there's some areas of the U.S. that like you would travel very far before you'd find these things.
oh yeah, like most of like the Rockies.
But like here on the East
Texas.
Coast, there's certainly like areas that are like
Yeah, I mean, like I could go walking in the woods near my house. I'd find another town very quickly.
yeah.
Wyoming. I lived there for 8 years or 10 years or whatever. Everything's really far away.
But yeah. So and in Children of Wrath, they found the former owner of the house in the basement.
Nice.
Yeah. He's some kind of horrible monstrosity that has engineered himself into a super death like lich.
That seems fine.
I missed that game. I might have to go catch the VOD.
Yes. Well, it was more like it was going to be like a kind of time skippy episode, but like Joe was like, "I'm going to explore the rest of the rooms in the house," and I'm like, "Great."
Yeah, the super cursed house full of awfulness.
Yeah, it turns out that like the guy was doing some like magical based genetic engineering on himself, combined with I don't know, making himself like a Phyrexian body and turning himself into some kind of lich at the same time, and remade himself.
She would do now.
So
Yeah,
he's got these like
Normal Tuesday.
Yeah, he's actually probably more demi lichy because I gave him crystal eyes, which should be a hint of demi liching. Because they only found his eyes and his tongue when they.
Is
found
it a silver tongue?
I don't know. They didn't see his tongue in his mouth, so he might also have a silver tongue. I don't know. Maybe he does. For comedy.
Who knows?
That'd be some deep lore right there.
Yeah. But yeah. God, it was more character issues because like unfortunately Lindsay has to be on break for a while now, and like we're having to start a little later because Joe now starts work at 8, ends work at 8 because his job lost someone on their West Coast desk, and they don't have someone to replace that person. So Joe now works West Coast hours.
Neat.
So he works till 8, and then Fish might be getting a job which has him end at like 8:30 his time, which is like 9:30.
Yeah.
Oof.
Scheduling. It's the bane of all D&D
It
games.
is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for long-term campaigns too. Like I feel like Legacies has always had issues. Same with Records. Even though like when I'm looking, they surprisingly have not that many episodes. Like Records has only had 35 episodes. You think about that. We've been playing it now for quite a while. It's only been 35. And I'm almost done the campaign. I could have gotten it finished in a year if we'd been able to be consistent. Anyway. Consistency,
Yeah.
This is probably a fine place to
It'll
stop
be
it.
okay.
Yeah,
I mean, that's everything.
We'll finish stuff up and like start some new things, etc., etc. But for now, I think we shall call our adventures here. It's been a good show. We got to talk about some interesting topics. So I want to thank my special guest hosts today, Lightning and Momo.
Hey.
Either of you got anything to shout out?
Not really.
I don't think I'm on any streamed games anymore.
I'm only on your stream games.
Yeah, there you go.
And I might get Lightning
can
on a
find
stream
Momo
game
here.
when I like get some others started and stuff. So.
Watch Records when it happens, please.
Yes, do
Yes.
that.
It is a fun time. We're almost done, and there will probably be like a bajillion unresolved plot threads, but whatever.
You can enjoy a small amount of time with my sassy evil bard.
Yes, do that. It's a good time.
And yeah, I think also a shout out to Unfunny One on his channel on for
Tuesday?
Tuesday. Where I forgot almost about that for my Star Trek. Oh, he calls it
That's
Star
right.
Wars.
You had Star Trek game.
Oh yeah.
And he calls it Star Wars, so I was thinking Star Wars.
Well,
there.
that's confusing.
It's not Star Wars. It's Star
not
Trek.
It's Star Trek, but he keeps saying Star Wars sillily.
Yeah, because they're similar but different.
They're similar but different. They're both very sci-fi. But yeah.
Yeah. You want to end by telling us what happened in the Star Trek game?
Oh
and
yeah,
then...
no. We saved the smaller ship that we were supposed to go meet. We were supposed to be getting a probe from a Ferengi business dealer, and the Ferengi business dealer unfortunately was working with some Orions, and Orions are infamous slavers, and so they were taking advantage of people that couldn't pay the Ferengi and basically selling them on the Orion slave market. Kind of highly illegal. So basically we're going to rescue a bunch of folks, you know, and Dr. Security
Dr. Om Nom Nom.
Dr. Om Nom Nom is going to kick some ass.
Such a good. I'm so glad you're a doctor, because then I can reference my fucking Gorn science officer that I had in Star Trek Online.
Yes. Look, as soon as there's a doc, I'm like, Dr. Om Nom Nom, that sounds wonderful. I gave it a real like Gorn name, but still, it was like, I'm fine with this reference.
It's a good reference that only I and like 2 other people that I played that game with know.
I was surprised I could find some blue uniformed Starfleet Gorn pictures that some people had done. People do some interesting pictures out there. Like if you look up stuff, you can often find fine art for it.
Yeah, it's shared in not this Discord, Josh's Discord, and Funny One Discord. I would share a link if I had one, but I don't.
I don't have links on the top of my head, but
yeah, here it is. Yep, it's Big Lizard Man with the mustache, I
he
think.
kind of has like a mustache. I don't know
Which is
if
weird.
Gorn can have mustache. Look, they might, because I'm gonna be honest. They are a weird species because, like, quite literally, not in the memory beta, in the memory alpha, which is the, like, because apparently memory beta is, like, the extended universe of stuff that's questionable whether or not it's, like, canon or not. It's, like, the books and comics and stuff. Memory alpha, which if you look up on Star Trek is all the actual canon stuff. Gorn women have boobs.
Well, of course.
I mean, yeah, of course.
Because Kirk needs this.
It's nerds. Nerds make these.
Nerds make these things. It's like, they are known for their mammary glands, and I'm like, what? That's just weird. We're lizards. I'm like, I had to like discuss this with Josh at one point in time and come up with it. Like, maybe it's because they've evolved in such a way that like it's like the, you know, milk can give like protection against like diseases and stuff and things like that, and that's maybe the evolutionary.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
Definitely not because some nerd was like, I want some lizard.
Look, I'm sure that's the actual reason, but, you know...
It's the reason now.
It's gotta be the reason now for it biologically to exist within the species. Look,
I mean,
and my character is married there and has his wife there, and also the joke is because like the females are supposed to be taller and bigger, so she never really leaves the room because again, like, she probably doesn't fit in the ship as well. I barely fit. I'm supposed to be like 9 foot tall. She's probably like closer to 10.
You are a very big lizard.
I'm a very big lizard.
Yeah.
Memories. Thanks, Sal. That's really we need. Anyway, all right. Let's get going before this breaks down even more.
Otherwise, we're gonna just continue to stream my game, and I'm not ready to stream my game.
No. I was hoping to go out on adventures, either pick up food for dinner or go to the grocery store. I don't know.
I mean, you have an hour and something.
Well, it's probably
hour and like 30 minutes.
Adventures, yeah. So I have time.
I should make dinner today.
Yeah.
And not order out again.
So that's the stream, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Bye,
hanging out.
everybody. Hopefully join me next week. Maybe some of these folks will join me as special guest hosts again. Check out my other streams during the week. The definitely ones I can give you timing for: Records of Evil at 1 p.m. EST on Mondays, Legacies of Kain at 2 p.m. EST on Tuesdays, and Children of Wrath on Thursdays at 8. Those are the definite ones on the schedule. Everything else, check out my Discord and Twitter to see when it's announced. So until then, farewell, everybody. Goodbye.